Alright, what's up everyone? This is Sam TCG. For a video today, what we're doing a bunch of stuff mixed together. We're gonna do a sort of market watch with the black labels, manga. We're doing PSA versus Beckett because not every card should be sent to Beckett, not every card should be sent to PSA. We're really looking at the numbers of which cards should be sent where. Obviously there's personal preference involved in the decision, but here we're not thinking about that. We're just talking about straight up numbers. What are the odds of getting black label? What are the odds of not getting black label? And if you should send, considering all the numbers and everything. We're doing a sort of population report for the black labels as well. We're gonna talk about a lot of numbers and stuff. It could be useful for you. So first of all, just the plan in general. I'm going through each of the mangas in English version as well as the reprint. So I'll be talking, let's say first, the OP01 Shanks manga. I'll be talking about the reprint also in the same section. There will be timestamps in the description if you want to go to the timestamps and go look at the manga that you have and see and compare the prices for PSA and Black Label and BGS10, etc. to make your own decision. And I'll be showing you as well for the next minute or two just how I get my information, so then you can go get it yourself, maybe to get more updated information, because these are from around mid-February 2025 and they should be accurate still for maybe a couple more months. So if you're looking at this more in the summer, it could be useful just to understand what I'm doing to do this yourself, or I might do another video like this if ever it is liked by the community. What I'm doing also is just showing the population reports. I'm going to talk about the black label values for the ones that have been sold anyways, and just comparing a bunch of stuff. And the reason I'm doing this is really because I have this channel, and I also have an eBay store and a TikTok, and I film a bunch of stuff, openings, and I show my collection and sometimes even the cards of my friends that want to be shown on TikTok. And I got a GODPACK, so that is the real reason I'm doing this. I got a GODPACK in PRB01 English version recently, and I've sent that to Beckett. Beckett, it's I send it all before doing all the research for this video, so this doesn't mean I'm recommending you to send all your mangas to Beckett. I just thought that it was the right decision at that moment, and we'll see. Maybe I should have sent 5 to Beckett and 5 separate ones, or 5 different ones for different reasons to PSA. It's all a decision that you can take, and we'll see through this video, see if I made a good call. I will get those back in the next month or two from Beckett, and statistically I should have more than 50% chance to get at least one black label. So if you're interested in seeing my GODPACK Beckett return and hoping to get a black label like me, subscribe, follow, like, and you should get a notification for that when it comes out. How I check values is through 130 Point. 130 Point actually uses the eBay last sold values, and it actually shows the offer accepted. So for cards like mangas, it is great because most of the time it's an offer accepted. They put it on sale for way too much, and someone offers a little bit less and they accept that. That's what I've been seeing anyway. So it does show the offer accepted price, unlike the eBay original, the eBay site. It doesn't show, it shows a number with a bar through it. So I rely on 130 Point for most of my research. And to check population reports, you just go on Beckett. You can probably figure out yourself, but just to show how I do it, I think it's weird. It's a weird setup if you go straight to population report. You gotta be pretty precise with what you write in the 3 sections. So I just go in the general search bar for the Beckett website, and I look up like I've done here, so One Piece Shanks manga, and then you get the list in English and then Japanese and then Chinese or whatever the other languages that One Piece prints in. You click on this here and it brings you to the page for just that card. You scroll down, click on Pop Report, and it'll bring you to the population report. and then you should get something that looks like this. So here we've got all the grades and how many are graded to that grade. So for example, the first one we're going to talk about is Shanks manga from OP01. There are 106 that have been graded black label on a total of 1,019 submissions. So that gives us a 10.4% chance of getting a black label. So if your card, when you look at it, you don't see a defect, it's well centered, your chances of getting a black label are about 10%. So 1 out of 10 cards, which are great odds. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to consider under 5 to be hard, over 5 to be good, and over 10 is ridiculous. So yeah. So OP01 Shanks, let's start this out with a banger. So black label value for the original comes to 4,000 and 6,000 were the two sales recently, the most recent one being 6,000. That's why I put the star there. Just to, you know, kind of useful to know. I'm not writing the values for BGS 10 and PSA 10 if there are values for black label. I think that's the most important thing to know when you want to submit to BGS, is really to try for that black label. If in general, if you're not trying for the black label, you should probably send to PSA just because it's getting more popular for the non-black label cards. But you know, we'll see. There's some differences and some different options to consider here. Black label population, like we said, it's about 10%, so good odds of getting a black label for this original Shanks OP01 manga. You know, no brainer. If you've got a Shanks from this and it looks good, I would send it to black label, because 1 out of 10 is going to come out a black label. That's an amazing percentage. For the PRB reprint, there are no sales yet for black label as of end of February, which is when I'm filming right now. But there are a bunch that have been graded a black label, and we see there's about 12%. So it's a little bit better than just the original. So also there, I'm glad I sent my Shanks from the PRB reprint GODPACK. I sent it straight to Beckett, so I'm happy for that one. OP02 Ace. The black labels are a little bit everywhere, so we're spread out around 4,000 US dollars here, but the recent one was 8,000. So is it getting more and more valuable with time? Maybe. We've got a black label population of 3.8% of the submissions. So under 5, like I said, it's about 130 here. 1 out of 30 cards that were graded black label. So odds are not great. So you could go and look at sold values for PSA 10 and BGS 10 and black label, just to compare and think about where you want to send it. But seeing this value at 8,000 US dollars, you know, you see this, and that's definitely twice or maybe 4 times the amount that as a PSA 10 would be worth. So seeing that, you'd want to send to black label, but consider your chances here that are pretty low. So just something to consider. PRB a reprint for the Ace, pretty much the same prices, right? So it's crazy that the reprint is almost the same price as the original, but I'm all for that. And this one, we see that we have a 1 out of 10 chance of getting a black label. So I would tend to send more of the reprint from PRB01 to Beckett than the other one. But it all depends on your personal preference and if you think that you're gonna get the black label. But 10% is great. OP03 Sogeking. Black label values, there are none. So there are 11 out of 474 that were graded a black label, but none of them have been sold yet. I don't know if it's because they put prices that are too high. No one wants to pay because it's not a that much popular character, even though we see him for the whole One Piece saga. So yeah, so I'm just writing down the BGS 10 and PSA 10 values here that are pretty similar. So when I see that they are both similar here, I would tend to send to Beckett just to get that small chance to get a black label. But the bad side about Beckett, they're a little bit more strict when it comes to grading. So you might get a 9.5. If you get a 9.5 BGS, then definitely not as valuable as a PSA 10. So then you would actually lose the money you spent to get graded. Usually 9.5 BGS is like raw price most of the time. But still easier to sell than a raw card, because when it's graded in a BGS, it's a real and not a counterfeit or a proxy, like we see a lot recently from mangas. So just a pass here to tell you that be careful when you buy mangas online, eBay or whatever, wherever you buy them. For the PRB reprint, also just 2 that have been graded under 5%, so it's really hard to get a Black Label Sogeking. It's gonna make it more valuable, I think. So there are no sales for that, so we'll see in the near future how it sells. OP04 Sabo, for the original, the Black Label value, it's been sold once at $2,300 US. Black Label population still 2.6%, about 1 in 40 cards that were sent to BGS to get graded came out in a Black Label. Not great, so I didn't check actually the PSA 10 value. So if you have this card, what I would do is check the PSA 10 value and see if it's much better getting this. It definitely is much better, but you could just weigh the risks and benefits. Here, if a PSA 10 is 1,000, do you think it's worth for a 1 out of 40 to try for that Black Label? Probably not. To be honest, it's probably not one that I would send to Beckett. Or if you have the extra money, you could maybe send it to Beckett, hope for the Black Label. If it's not a Black Label, then you compare BGS 10 and PSA 10, and then send it to PSA 10 if you think it's better. But hard decision for this one. For the reprint, going for $1,500 to $2,700 US. The most recent one is around $1,800, and a lot of them are getting. So 1 out of about 6. 1 out of 6 is coming out exactly that. 1 out of 6 is coming out as a Black Label. So crazy good odds. So I am glad that I've sent my Sabo manga reprint for PRB01 to Beckett. So I'm pretty glad about that. But this one I'd be debating really hard. We got a bunch of mangas from OP05. We're gonna start with Law first. So Trafalgar Law has no sale in Black Label, even if there's 3 in the world that are graded Black Label. That is not a lot. It's less than 1%, so less than 1 out of 100. About 1 every 115 about that get graded Black Label. So bad odds. And for the BGS 10 versus PSA 10, we're seeing that the PSA 10 is worth a little bit more. So this one, to be honest, the original, I would not send to Beckett. I would send straight to PSA, hoping for a 10, and that it's worth more than BGS 10, and you're probably not going to get the Black Label anyways, just looking at the numbers here. But if you get a Black Label, I feel like because it's a popular character, because it's so hard to get a Black Label, I think it's going to be worth more than, if there was 5%. It's much less. For the reprint, it's for the Black Label, it's worth around $5,000 US, and you got a 10% chance somewhere around there to get a Black Label. So those are great odds. There again, happy I sent mine to Beckett. Captain Kid, BGS 10, so no sales in Black Label, but BGS 10 and PSA 10 have sales. We're seeing Beckett having way more value. Maybe just because they're more strict, but this is not like the other cards that we saw, so it just shows how different it can be depending on the card we're looking at. So this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing this video. So Black Label population, it's about 1%. It's even worse than 1% because it's not 4 out of 400, it's 4 out of 400 and more. So it's worse than 1% chance of getting a Black Label. So horrible card to send to Beckett. Unless you're really a gambler and you're hoping for that to be in that 1%, or you're sending a bunch to get graded, so probably wouldn't send. But at the same time, when we look at the BGS 10, it's worth much more than a PSA 10. So you could say, worst case, hey, I don't think it's going to be a black label. Worst case, it's going to be a 10, and it's worth much more than PSA 10. So that could be a good reason to send it, or not. If you're less of a gambler and you want your PSA 10 500 USD for sure, then do PSA. But you know what? Thinking about it, I would probably send mine if I had one, which I don't, to Beckett just for that. You know, hoping for black label, but chances are won't get it. But if you get a 10, you get a crazy value out of that still. PRB, there's no sales, and you got a 2.5%, so a little bit better, but still horrible. So under 5%, I think it's horrible odds, but you know, you want it to be low. So if you get a black label, well, you're much happier. Looking at one of the most popular ones here, OP05 Luffy manga. There's no sales, surprisingly, in black label. Even if there's 35 existing, is it just because everyone is keeping theirs because they think it's going to be worth more and more? It is the first Luffy manga to come out of a booster pack, so I would think that, you know, it stays a legendary Luffy forever. People are going to want this card for the rest of times, as long as One Piece stays popular with the TCG and everything. So crazy that there's no sales yet. BGS 10 to compare to PSA 10, it's about the same. So, you know, when it's the same value, if you want to gamble and get that 1 out of ish 22 that is a black label, then go for it. You've got, you know, you're not risking anything. You're sending to get graded. If you're super lucky, you get a black label. If not, you still get probably, you know, a 10, which is worth the same as a PSA 10. But then you lose a lot of value if it's a BGS 9.5. Then, you know, consider sending it to PSA maybe to get that same value, because a BGS PSA 10 is easier to get than a BGS 10. So could send a BGS 9.5 thinking it's going to be a 10. I've done it. I've gotten 10s, but I've also gotten one that got a 9. So, you know, up to you if you want to try that risk. For the reprint, crazy $7,600 US for the one black label that was sold, and the odds are about the same. So around 1 in 22, 23-ish that have gotten black label. So there too, glad I sent it to Beckett, because, you know, good odds. So I'm crossing my finger for this one in terms of value, but to be honest, it's not my favorite one. It's not my favorite manga that got, but for the value, want that black label for sure. OP06 Zoro, pretty popular manga, one of my favorites, definitely. The last sold was at about $2,300 US. Other sales a little bit lower, but still, is it going and increasing? We'll see. It's 8%, which I think is good. It's not crazy, but it's good. It's about 1 out of, what, 12 or so? 12, 13 cards that get a black label. I'm happy with those odds. I think that could be worth sending to Beckett just for that reason. Not comparing PSA 10 prices, but it's definitely not 2,000. For the reprints, no sales in black label, and the odds are about the same, close to 10%, which is good. Glad I sent my Zoro to Beckett, because I've got a 1 out of ish 12 that will get her 11, I guess. For the Chopper manga from the EB01, black label values are actually crazy. So $4,500 US. I'm not sure why I took out the values here, but it's actually interesting to see, because PSA 10 and BGS 10 both have the same value. But for black label, we have a crazy amount here. So when you get the same value from PSA 10 and BGS 10, my logic is to send it to BGS, because you have that tiny chance of getting a black label. When I say tiny, I mean amazingly good chance. For this card, the original 21% came back at Black Labels. So 1 out of 5, and even it's actually better than 1 out of 5%. 1 out of 5 cards that you send to Beckett are going to come out of Black Label. So this, to me, is a no-brainer. If you have this Chopper original, not the manga reprint, you definitely should send this to Beckett. I'm at the point where I'm debating to go on eBay, buy a bunch of those, even though it's going to cost a fortune. Buy a bunch of those Choppers and grade them with Beckett and get that Black Label. And if you don't get that Black Label, worst case you get a BGS 10 and it's not lost because it's worth the same as PSA 10. Worst case you get a 9.5, then you think about at that moment do you send it to PSA for the 10 to get back that value, but it's a decision you can take later. Yeah, so I find this crazy, but I'm not gonna do that because I've got money that I'm spending on other things, and it's a lot of money for this. But someone could say it's a good idea, and I'm thinking about it, but I'm not doing it. But you might be. So for PRB, a reprint of this card, a lot less are getting Black Labels. 4.5s, 1 out of 21 or so. The last sale for the only Black Label that was sale is a little bit over $2,000, which is a good price. You would maybe expect a little bit more considering the original is $4,500, but it's the start. We'll see. Might increase. We'll see. For the Boa that does not have a reprint, you'll notice I didn't get anything out for that. The Black Label value for one sale, there wasn't any other sales. So $3,600 US for the only one that was sold. The Black Label population 2.6, so ish 1 out of 40. I think I didn't calculate that well on this one. No, that's it. That's right, 1 out of 21. But this is 1 out of 40 ish that got the Black Label. So okay, not really good odds, but the Black Label value is crazy for this card. So I'm surprised considering right now the booster box prices are pretty low. It's around what, 120 Canadian, but probably less than the 800, so like 95 US dollars right now. It's a great price if you're lucky enough to get the Boa manga. Rayleigh, probably the little less popular with Sogeking manga from the recent set, so one of the recent sets, but got more since then. Horrible Black Label odds, 1%. No sales in Black Label, so even if you got a Black Label, you might have a hard time selling it to a reasonable price because of the character. BGS 10, PSA 10 are about the same, I would say. So do what you like with that. I don't really have an opinion about this card, considering numbers. So, if you're already sending a bunch of cards to PSA, just put it in the pile with PSA and don't take the extra effort to send to PSA and then send to Beckett also just for one card, or keep it around, decide later. That's also fine. PRB Nami, so probably my favorite or top 2 with Zoro manga here that I did get in my PRB GODPACK, so I'm pretty happy about this one. There's obviously no reprint because it just came out in PRB01. Black Label values are crazy also, so 6,400 USD, with the most recent sold around 4,600, so that's a lot of money, and the odds are about 1 in 30. So 1 in 30 to get a Black Label, so that's good. So I'm happy to send it there just because of the Black Label values that are very, very high. But you know what? I'm talking about value for this card, but I'm definitely gonna keep it. Definitely, if it's a Black Label, gonna keep it for a long time and keep it part of the PC. Now we're getting to the more recent. So like I said, like I'm saying here, the OP09 is still very fresh. Still been around 32 that have been submitted, and just the OP09 still like around 30 cards that were sent to BGS. So we're expecting to get those number increased. If some of you have done any statistics course, you'll you'll remember that, you know, a population or a sample of 30 or more, you know, actually accurate for calculations and averages. I think, you know, it's not enough. I think we need at least closer to 100 that were submitted to get accurate values a year. So I wouldn't completely trust this number, because you get just one. The next one gets graded Black Label, you get 2 out of 32, and that's 6.2%. So I'm guessing the percentage is somewhere between 2 and 6%, if you want a number from me, but that's just my opinion. There's no sales in Black Label yet, because there's only one. Probably that person wants to keep it, but you could probably put it on eBay for an immense amount and say it's a pop one, and then people buy it just when they see it's a pop one. But there's going to be much more coming soon, so don't go crazy on that pop one eBay listing. PSA 10, close to 1,200. Pretty good. Yeah, they're OP09s. We're gonna go quicker through these, but 6% for Buggy for now. Teach 3.3%. If you wanna, you know, I think you either wait or you just pick one and stick with your decision, see what happens. But if you wanna have a fair estimation and a percentage and think about it a little bit more, you might want to wait. Some are not always patient, so you might not want to wait and sell now while it's high. But you know, mangas are, if you know Pokemon, I see mangas as like the gold stars of Pokemon, or the shinings, and those have been increasing in the last years with the Pokemon craze and the COVID and everything that made Pokemon more popular. So I think the mangas from these sets are going to be forever popular and increasing forever. So that's just my opinion. Do what you want. Think about the risks yourself and the benefits and stuff, and make your own decision. For Luffy, no sales in Black Label, 3.6% for now. So we'll see. It's interesting though to see that BGS 10 has more sales. Actually, no, there were the same amount of sales. I don't know why I just put 1 and I put 3 here, but just to show that seems to be really 1,600 the value for this Luffy here, because it's been sold at that price for 3 sales. Might fluctuate. I would think that it'd be more than that, but you know, it's enough. It's enough. Gol D Rogers, craziest card, craziest value. Imagine in Black Label, where most of the time it triples and quadruples in value. Gol D Rogers in Black Label is more than $16,000. It's been sold once. I don't know how the value is going to fluctuate, but like, who is able to pay $16,000 in one shot just like that for one card? You know, people say it's worth that. Yes, it's been sold at that point, so it's worth that, but whoa, how can you sell it for that much? And look at that, the population is close to 1 out of 5, so it's between 1 out of 5 and 1 out of 6 that get Black Label. So I think you're crazy if you've got a Gol D Roger manga and you're not sending it to Beckett to hope for this Black Label. There's no way PSA 10 is even approaching the 16,000, so it's a no-brainer for me. If I had one, which I don't, but I want one, still gonna open OP09 soon. I've got a case coming soon, and I will open that and hope for this card just for the crazy value. But yeah, but definitely if I get that card, I'm sending it to them. So this is the last card for the mangas. I did just a calculation just because, you know, that's what I have, the GODPACK, and I sent it all to Beckett. What are my odds of getting at least one Black Label? There's different ways to calculate it, and I don't know what is the best way. If there's any mathematicians or statisticians, I would love if you just calculate that for me, put it in the comments, and you know, I'll be just more excited if it's higher than this. But using 2 different ways to calculate it, I got 65 to 75%. So, you know, I'm seeing higher than 50%. I'm happy with that. basically added all the percentages together and divided by 10. And the other way of calculating it is just adding every number on the whatever. So I just did some sort of calculation that I don't know which is the best, but I'm pretty happy about that. So that pretty much ends this video. In my opinion, you know, PSA versus Beckett is not a sure decision that you should have for every manga. I think it's a decision you should take based on your personal interest, your personal preference, and also the numbers. So now that you've seen how I've done all the calculations, all the numbers, you can do it yourself, or maybe just wait a while till I do my next video, probably the next 3 months or so, maybe shorter, if maybe sooner if you guys really like this video and want me to do one about other cards like the mangas again. Maybe we could do like the SPs for older sets, or alt art leaders that are still used in the TCG, anything like that. I'm open to your suggestions. It took a lot of time to build this video, so I appreciate your support. Like, follow, subscribe to this channel. Share your opinion. Do you think PSA is better? Do you think Beckett is better? Is PSA getting stricter with their grading? I don't know. I'm hoping for black labels in my GODPACK. If you want to follow and you'll get notified for that video when it pops up, go ahead. I would love the support. Thank you for watching.
Nami, Sanji, Usopp, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, ブルック、海峡のジンベエ、ゴム人間の船長、モンキー・ディ・ルフィ。